Okay, so you're thinking about making the move to Orlando and you're like, what is it like living in Orlando? What are the people like? What's the weather like? Just what is the vibe that happens in Orlando, and should I even consider making the move out here? Well, in this video, I'm going to cover what it's like living in Orlando. Some things I've experienced that are different from all the places I've lived in my life, and some of the great and bad that I've experienced since living here. So let's get into it. What's up, everyone? My name is Cameron Hodge, coming at you from eXp Realty here in Orlando. And on this channel, I talk about everything from making the move to Orlando, being in Orlando, and just tips, tricks, and everything you need to know about it. And I absolutely love it. We are getting calls, days, nights, weekends, nonstop from people making the move to Orlando, and we absolutely love helping you. So if that's you, you're thinking of making the move, you need help deciding what you should do in that move, or you already know you're coming and you're ready to make the decision, feel free to give me a call, text, email, whatever you have to do. We have your back when coming to Orlando, Florida. All right, guys, so I wanted to get into this. Well, and girls. Sorry, habit. It's a little slang. But I want to get into it, and I really just want to talk about just like Orlando living. Like, what's it like? Like, what's the experience you feel when coming here for the first time, or even when you make that move here? Like, what's it like? So, I'll give you a quick background so you get an idea where my perspective is coming from. So I originally grew up in Western New York, small town. I've been in North Carolina, South Carolina, California, been through Texas. I was stationed in Japan, South Korea, Okinawa, Guam. I've been in a lot of places in my life. So those were a lot of my opinions and comparisons are coming from. And also, I have two awesome kids when I made the move out here, and I also have a third on the way this year, which is what's a little more chaos in my life at this point. But that's where a lot of my perspectives comes from when it came to moving out here and experiencing it, and like my opinions moving forward. So, getting into it, making the decision to come to Orlando is, man, a lot of people definitely are. Most that reach out to us already have an idea what it's like. But if you're in the, say, discovery phase and you're like, okay, like, just what's it like? So we've gotten a lot of different, questions when it comes to coming out here to Orlando. And I think a lot of people, it's like, what's the vibe like? Like, what is Orlando and living in Florida like? I think a lot of people look at like the weather and like the hurricanes and all this craziness that they hear on the news, and like, full of crazy people, like a Florida man does this, Florida woman does this, like, and other tragedies that happen inside the state, and they peg that as Florida, but really it gets a bad rep. To be honest with you, there's a reason why, Orlando and Florida in general is just such a big wintertime hub for people. And unfortunately enough, most people, when they come to visit this area, they come during when kids aren't in school, which for most is going to be during the summer. And I can tell you, like, yes, like it'll be 90, 100. It gets humid. It rains every day. Thunderstorms a lot. I love it. I kind of enjoy not having like the perfect California weather. It just bores me. I prefer like the craziness that is Florida. But, if you really, in the winter, it's like you're living in a tropical paradise. I mean, it's one of those things where I tell people, like, you're living in an area where people vacation to. Like, how awesome is that you can live in an area where people want to travel to? And also, because it is such a big vacation destination, when it comes to leaving and flying places, you're going to get a better deal than you would saying, like, where I grew up in Western New York. Like, I would have to fly into Buffalo when I'd go home on leave from the military, and it was guaranteed coming across the country, like, I was going to spend over $1,000 round trip for tickets. And it's just so frustrating. But being in a place like Orlando where I can experience city, living in downtown in a brand new condo high rise. I can live right next to Disney World. I could live in a little bit farther out, have a farm and like chickens and all this stuff. I could live in the suburbs and get a suburb feel. I could, if your budget allows, you could be on a lake. You could be, maybe you don't have to be on a lake, but you could buy a home that has a canal that leads to a lake. And you can still have a boat, and like it's just, the options are endless when it comes to living out here, and the vibe of being out here translates into the same things like all that would be. It's it's laid back, It's just that it's not like you're living in like Georgia southern feel or like, you know, the inland South Carolina. It's still, you know, there's a lot of different cultures and people that have moved here to Central Florida over the years. And what you really find, I mean, like I said, when we first came out here to do our discovery trip, we stayed in an Airbnb just outside, about 28 minutes from Disney World is where we stayed at the time, getting closer to Lakeland, just because we wanted to go in between Tampa and Orlando. We didn't know where we wanted to live. And like the neighbor was the one caretaking the home. I got into a conversation with her. Like, she was originally from Canada about 10 years ago. They moved out here and like obviously they're citizens now and they absolutely love it. And like you don't even know these people, and that's like a common occurrence I found is like if you're generally like there to help people and be a nice person, like people just have a really good attitude about everything. And while yeah, sure, there's always gonna be bad eggs everywhere you go, I think the vibe since moving out here it's like for me. So before this, when we came from Southern California, quick story, like being in the city, and this is any city I've experienced, but California is definitely, it's just one giant city. And everyone's just so rude. Like, I'll never forget when we came back. So then we did a giant road trip in that discovery trip. When we came back, like, as soon as we hit, like, the San Diego County limits coming in towards the city, there was, like, no traffic. And someone just cuts me off and proceeds to give me the middle finger. And it's just, like, that's how California was to me. People think it's, like, all laid back and it's great. And personally, in my opinion, it was just... You know, it's great. The weather's awesome. And like every area has its pros and cons. But I will tell you that overall, like it just wasn't the atmosphere that I was looking for personally. And I just felt that there was better options. My wife did too. And when we came out to Florida, like it's like such a shift being back on the East Coast. And everyone's just so friendly, super nice. And it's all around, like, we knew right away that it was just a place where we wanted to raise our family. You know, I mean, a lot of people, the weather's a big negative that they run into. But to be honest, like, it's really easy to get past. And when people come out during the winter, they're like, holy cow, it's like 75 to 85, fluctuates. You know, the humidity is a little bit less than it would be in the summer. And it's just awesome. It's just, you're living in a paradise. I mean... You know, especially if you lived up in the Northeast where I came from, like people vacation here during the winter. Like we all know grandparents or like older friends who they came down here during the winter. So, you know, for joints and health reasons. And then when you're actually living here during the winter, you're like, oh man, I completely understand why so many people come here during the winter. Cause it's perfect. It's awesome weather. There's beaches, warm water. Like come on, you can't beat it. Theme parks. Now, obviously it gets crowded during the winter. That is a negative because it's a place that everyone vacations to, especially in Orlando. Like millions and millions of people come through here every year who do not live here because they're here to vacation, see the area, especially now that it's growing, it's expanding. And sure, it's going to get more crowded. Like it's, you know, cities do that. That's what they do. They get more and more crowded. But the cool thing is, if you're watching this now and you're looking to make your move, I really do feel that you're coming into an opportunity to set up exactly where you want your family, yourself, your home. Like you can set up everything and still be in a really good spot moving forward. So if you ever come from like a big metropolitan area, like everyone always looks back, especially if you're younger, you're like under 35, I'd say. You know, I'm cresting up to 30 here. And you hit a point where you're like, man, like, you know, you look at California, like coastal San Diego, like when, you know, I had my business out there and I still, you know, refer out, you know, business over there for when I was active. And it's a position where a lot of people, like definitely older, like, you know, they bought like their 15-minute from the beach house for like 500,000. And that's a lot, but when you're thinking like you're 15 minutes from the beach in California, that's insane. Because that home now is going to be at least, you know, if it's not a 55 up community, it's going to be like over $1 million. And it's just crazy, you know. And coming here to Florida, like you have the opportunity. Like personally, we chose Orlando because we didn't need to be near a beach. We were completely okay with being, you know, we wanted to be tucked away from things. Like we don't have we didn't do this right away when we built our home. But looking down the road, like we really want to have a farm. Like we want to be close to Disney World and stuff like that. But at the same time, like we want to be in a position where we can, like our kids can, you know, still be close. We can still be close to amenities. And, you know, when we have our date nights, we can go out and have awesome fun, whether it's driving over to Tampa or going to downtown Orlando. But we want to be in a position where we can really create a life of value for our kids. And Florida really provides provides that. It gives you a lot of freedom. You know, like obviously there's no income tax. Your tax base is a little bit lower. I'm not going to say it's the lowest stakes. It's not. But you get to be in a position where you just get to expand. You get to do things. You get to just, like, everyone's really friendly for the most part. And I always do say this, though. I really do feel that when things get more crowded, like, that could change. But as it stands right now, like, that's the vibe that everyone has. Like, you go everywhere, like, everyone's just, like, 10 times more friendly than I found in a lot of other areas, especially, like, more crowded areas like New York City and, you know, LA, San Francisco. Even San Diego is getting pretty bad too. And a lot of the negatives, like the safety of Orlando, that, you know, like Polk County still, like, obviously has higher rates of crime depending where you live in the county. But the thing is, you know, the way it always does work is as the new construction continues and the prices go up, a lot of, like, unfortunately, it's sad to say, but a lot of that crime does get pushed out because those people just can't afford to live here. And at the same time, like, more new schools get built, new homes, you know, families come here that are, like, well-being and, like, want to take care of their communities. And all that plays into a part of just really having a good scenario to be here. That being said, like, Orlando is not for everyone. Like, if you need to be near a beach, or if you just really don't want to deal with the traffic that comes with being in Orlando during the winter, then absolutely, like, go to Tampa. If you know, it is going to be a higher budget on average. It's going to be a higher budget needed to get in there. But Tampa, you know, has, like, the NFL, it has hockey, and, like, well, Orlando does have professional basketball. You know, Tampa has all those professional sports and then some. And honestly, it does have a pretty active downtown and things like that. And the waterfront's awesome. Like Clearwater, St. Pete, great. But if you're like us and, like, you want to be near, like, the theme parks, and you can have the option to be a little more country feel, then I think Orlando's a great bet. And, you know, we've had some people concerned, even, like, here's a good example where, like, my wife's family, her mom is from Bolivia. And even, like, obviously, like, a lot of people are really concerned, like, sometimes when people think of the South, I feel like they get really concerned with diversity. And so, like, I'm not here to steer you to any one area. I'm just letting you know that, like, Florida is such a melting pot of different people and cultures, and it just has everything. Like, I don't care what you're looking for, like, it has it here. Like, I'm telling you, like, the negatives really are, like, people, whether it's really the weather, honestly. If it wasn't for the weather, I feel like people would really not have that many complaints about being here, you know. It's either for you or it's not. But this place is super, like, diverse. There's so much you can find, like, you know, different food scenes and cultures, and it's just a mix of everything. And, you know, I think, like, a lot of people, you know, you find here, like, there aren't too many, like, natives that have been here for, like, you know, generations. A lot of times, you know, we look within a 20-year time frame, like, you're finding people like, oh yeah, I moved from, like, Canada, New York, Illinois, like, all over, like, pretty much every state, you know, the UK, like, I've all moved here to Florida because they get it. It's awesome. It's a great place. While home prices in Orlando at the time of this video are averaging about, like, you know, over 400,000, a little over 400,000. You can find cheaper, but that's the average for the whole county as a whole. You know, it does get a little higher for some people that are moving here, especially as rents increase, because it's just becoming more popular. But that's just the economy as a whole right now at the time of this. So it's just to take note of it. But at the same time, like, depending where you're coming from, like, you can find, and even with home prices being higher, like, you can find what you're looking for. You just might have to drive a little bit. But that's the thing, right? Like, if you're coming from an area like I did in Southern California, like, and you're like, oh, you have to drive a little bit farther. Like, well, that doesn't really exist in San Diego. Like, in San Diego, right? Like, or even LA, like, you drive an hour, guess what? It's still going to be probably, like, over 500 grand for a house at this time. And it's just completely insane. But I tell a lot of people, it's all perspective. So even if you're coming here with, like, a tighter budget and you're, like, looking at Orlando and you're like, let's say you're looking at, like, you know, Winter Garden, Dr. Phillips, Kiss Me, like, you're gonna be like, yeah, like, it just looks out of my budget, Cam. Like, you know, you can still find some homes that are smaller for $350, but at the same time, like, if you go towards, like, Lake Mary, or, you know, you go up past Lake Apopka and you're going, you know, farther past Apopka and Zellwood and stuff like that, you can start to, you're a little farther out there, but the schools are still B+ or greater, and safety's still good. It's expanding up that way slowly as well. But you can find something that's probably closer in your budget, maybe a better size home. And it's all about just getting established. Like, if you know you're coming out here, you've done your trip, you know where you want to live, you've reached out to us, we've helped you set up a plan. Like, a lot of times it's just moving to the area, getting established, and then once you're established, making sure the schools are good, the safety's good, that you have a family, and you're in a position to where you can function, like, you can breathe. Like, moving here is the hardest part. Once you're here and established, you got a career, like everything's set up in place. Like, it's really like, it's, you know, real estate is always cyclical, but like long term, like it always ends up working out. And there's so many options where you will probably be able to, if you work here for a while and you're like, man, you know, Cameron, I moved to Zellwood because of the price and our family, and we worked out, but hey, we've had some good blessings. We've had this happen before. Like, hey, we had some good blessings, you know, our income has gone up a little bit and we have some equity in our home. Like, I think we want to make the move down to Winter Garden, you know, because it's a little bit closer to the parks like our kids love to do. You know, the schools are a little bit better, and we want to be closer to that awesome community that is Winter Garden. That's why it's so popular, aside from Dr. Phillips. And people do that all the time. So if you know you're coming out here, it's just, you know, just realize, I think the hardest part is making that move out here and just getting established, you know. And to wrap up the video here, I just want to say that Orlando is an amazing place to live, but it doesn't mean it's for you. So if watching this video, hearing me talk about it, like, it's all great, but it's so important that you come out here and you just have what I call a discovery trip. You experience the area, you drive around, you make sure during peak work hours, if you knew like an idea where you'd be working, like you go there and just experience like the traffic, the pain, and make sure that you kind of got an idea if this is even for you, or head over to Tampa or whatever and decide, like, is this where I want to live, or do I need to rethink my plan? And if you know you're coming out here to make a discovery trip, we've done this for a lot of people making the move out here. Is they reach out and say, hey Cam, I know I'm making the move, I'm heading out there next month to just drive around the areas, like, could you help me? And I'm like, absolutely. And what we have done for our team is like, we talk to you a little bit, get an idea of where you're looking, and then we'll send you what we call a hot sheet, which is like, hey, here are some key areas for you to drive to and just experience what it feels like, and then report back to us and we can talk about it further. And that's something we do for a lot, because it really is just bringing value to you. Making a move is already like stressful enough, let alone across the country, the state, the world, and making sure that you have as much information as possible to make the right decision for you and your family is what's important. So I hope this video was valuable to you. If you have any questions, immediately leave me a comment below. You know, unlike others, we do try and check the comments daily at a minimum to make sure that we're answering all our active questions. Or if you know you're making the move, you're coming out here to search the area and you know you need assistance, give us a call, text, email, whatever you have to do. We have your back when making the move to Orlando. And without that, I will see you in the next video.